I had to make this video because I've just gotten so angry with the football community in America, with the NFL fans, specifically some of my fellow Dallas Cowboys fans, and just people in general, and their treatment of or their statements about their criticisms of Tony Romo. I'm going to say this now. Tony Romo is the most undeservingly criticized quarterback in the history of the NFL. He gets the most flack out of anybody for his play. And the truth is, his stats are not, or I would even say not even the stats, because people usually recognize the stats. His mistakes are not as bad as people trump them up to be. To be honest, I really think that the reason why Tony Romo gets so much criticism as the Dallas Cowboys quarterback is because of that fact. Because he is the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. People hate the Dallas Cowboys, so of course they're gonna come out with more harsh and unnecessary criticisms because it gets views, it gets clicks, it makes TV shows get better ratings. That's why First Take always talks about the Dallas Cowboys. That's why Skip Bayless is always talking about the Dallas Cowboys on his new show Undisputed. That's why sports writers are always writing their columns about him, and specifically they talk about the Dallas Cowboys quarterback because it is a big position in America. And it's crazy that fans just go right along with whatever these people say without actually looking at these things for themselves or even taking things that happen out of context. It's absolutely crazy. For example, I'm just going to run through a few things. Or even just to start off, I'll talk about, the reason why this is getting so much publicity lately is because of Dak Prescott. And I like Dak Prescott a lot. I liked him when he was at Mississippi State. He always played well. I talked about this in a previous video. Dak Prescott has been fantastic. The offense is flowing. They believe in him. I can see it. He is leading the team well. And I love that. And we should keep that up with him. Now, what I've noticed from his game, though, is that he's very accurate in his short and intermediate throws, which you need that. That is good. I'm glad that he is. But I also noticed that they don't call a lot of plays for him to go down the field. He's only completed one pass play that went beyond 20 yards down the field. And honestly, just speaking from a football perspective, that limits how dynamic your offense can be. That limits the big play potential of your offense. And they've been winning without it. I'm not saying that you necessarily have to have it, but that there is a limit. And when teams start keying on that, that makes moving the ball a little bit more difficult if they don't respect your down the field passing game. The good thing about Dak is that he has mobility, so he can convert longer downs with his feet. And we also have a really, really good running game with the offensive line and Ezekiel Elliott. So I'm not knocking Dak. I like him. I believe he is the future of the franchise, especially if he can get his downfield passing right. Even sometimes on his shorter throws, he'll throw the ball a little bit behind or at the feet of a receiver. And so he has to work on it a little bit too. But I like him. The issue is that people are saying that Dak is already better than Tony Romo. To say that, really, I think that shows how misinformed our football public really is. Uh, Watching Tony Romo as a pure passer, he is more dynamic than Dak Prescott, at least at this point in their careers. I know for sure, and I know if you watch the games, you can see that Tony Romo can make every throw on the field, and he knows how to extend and create plays. He has lost some of his athleticism because of age and older and some of the injuries, but he still can do what we've seen him do throughout the years. Except for maybe some of, like I said, some of those mobility plays, like the spinning out and running away from the tackles and things. But that doesn't stop him. Even in 2014, he had slowed down, but he had a great year. He stayed healthy. One thing that I find interesting that this false narrative on the injury thing. Before this year, Tony Romo had missed 27 total games. That's 27. But people like to claim that all of his injuries make it seem like he's missing a whole bunch of time every year, when in fact He's only missed the majority of the season twice in his career, which was 2015 and in 2010 when he had the first collarbone injury. Those are the only times he's missed a big chunk of games in his entire career. Other than that, he had the pinky. He played through the back injury another time, and he has the rib fractures. He played through all of those injuries and started and won games for the Dallas Cowboys with all those injuries. One of the toughest quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. But no one gives him credit for that because they only focus on the fact that he's had big injuries. But no one else gets criticized for having injuries. Only Tony Romo, the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, gets criticized for having injuries that derailed a couple of seasons of his. 2 seasons where he's missed a whole bunch of games. Two. But there's other guys who do that as well. Even Tom Brady missed a whole game, a whole season. Peyton Manning's missed a lot of games. it's it's really astounding, really, just to see what people will say when they follow a narrative. And not even just talking about that, even the interceptions. On the list of most all-time interceptions, Tony Romo is 88th. 88th. You know how the guys ahead of him who've thrown more interceptions is actually astounding. When you think about it, there are plenty of people like Philip Rivers, Ryan Fitzpatrick, of course Jay Cutler, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Carson Palmer. All these people have thrown more interceptions than Tony Romo in their career. Eli Manning, oh my gosh, people like to talk about his 2 Super Bowls, but he's thrown 203 interceptions in his career, and him and Tony Romo entered the league in the same year. But nobody likes to talk about how Eli Manning has way more interceptions than Tony Romo, or that Carson Palmer has way more interceptions than Tony Romo, or that Tom Brady has more interceptions than Tony Romo. Also, another crazy part that people don't consider that even though Tony Romo has thrown some interceptions, the Dallas Cowboys has always been a down the field attacking offense. And when you risk big plays, you will risk an interception. And so interceptions are going to happen, especially in an offense like the Dallas Cowboys. And to prove that, Tony Romo is tied sixth all time, sixth all time with career yards per attempt, which means that he's throwing the ball down the field at a higher rate than most of the quarterbacks, way higher than Tom Brady, way higher than Drew Brees, way higher than Cam Newton. All those guys are below Tom Brady. He's tied with Ben Roethlisberger, Kurt Warner, Aaron Rodgers, and Ed Brown for six at 7.9 yards per attempt. They're consistently throwing the ball down the field, and when you do that, you are more prone to interceptions, which is why Ben Roethlisberger has more career interceptions than Tony Romo. People like say he doesn't. Tony Romo hasn't won a Super Bowl. Winning a Super Bowl doesn't make you a good or a bad player. There are plenty of great players, elite players who never won Super Bowls. Plenty of them. And it's a false notion that quarterbacks are the ones who win championships for a team. Quarterbacks don't win championships. Yes, you probably need a good quarterback to get there or to play well. And Denver Bronco actually did it without great quarterback play last year. But you need a good overall team. And for a while there, Tony Romo was struggling with a team that wasn't quite ready to get to the playoffs or even make any noise anywhere near the division round or even in their division. So that's a false narrative that's coming along. You see, Tony Romo and Aaron Rodgers are tied for how they attack the teams down the field. And Aaron Rodgers has played less years than Tony Romo, so that's why he has fewer interceptions. But he still has quite a bit as well with 68. It's like what more? What more could people be asking for? The fact that also Tony Romo is 14th all time with career fourth quarter comebacks. According to Pro Football Reference, in their adjusted rankings, is he's 14th, right up there with guys like Warren Moon, Johnny Unitas, Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Brees, Eli Manning, Tom Brady. Tony Romo is right up there with these guys. But like I said, he gets these criticisms because he is a Dallas Cowboys quarterback. No one takes these things into account. Yes, Tony Romo has been injured. Yes, he's dealt with a lot of, the collarbone in the back. But he's also played through many other injuries, and he's only missed a majority of games in the season twice. And those were far apart years, 2010 and 2015. And now with the latest injury, of course, he's missing the start of this season, but he hasn't even started this season. So I don't know if that should count. I'm just saying that I understand if you're going to say that Dak Prescott, should keep playing. Maybe he should. But to say that Dak is better than Tony Romo, or that Tony Romo was never good, or that he doesn't deserve any credit for the play that he's had over the years, I say that's absolutely foolish, especially when you look at the numbers, especially when you look at what he had to deal through with his injuries and the teams not being up to par around him, especially dealing with the organization and the management that he had to deal with. To down Tony Romo shows ignorant football knowledge. That's my opinion, and I think it's a very true one at that. I get really animated and upset when I talk about Tony Romo people, and I feel like they just going along with the media narrative because it's just really sad and pathetic. He gets so much flack, and I hate to see it. Such a good guy, such a great player. He's made many great plays. He's carried this team on his back for years, but to see people throw him away when his body may start to break down a little bit, that's absolutely horrible. And I would never treat another human being, a football player like that when they give him their all so many times. Played through rib injuries, played through broken pinkies, played through a transverse fracture in the back. I get. I'm done.